When Lee Jian accepts a role, a hit is guaranteed. Her new drama this year, after just one episode, has already topped the rating charts. And her role as the illegitimate daughter of the castle group makes her character even more eccentric. You can tell just by the look on her face as she orders her team to dig up dirt on a rival is all you need to see. If it's not hard, then get it done. Play dirty, pull pranks, I don't care. The story is set in a modern constitutional monarchy, a version of Korea where the king holds absolute power. Seong Hee-ju, a chaebol's illegitimate daughter, attends the Royal Academy, a school for the elite. But unlike her peers who avoid outshining the royals, she doesn't just rank first in her class, she publicly humiliates the royal heir in front of everyone. Min Sok, you'll have to try harder next time. Got it? Why do you lose every time? You're a noble after all. Despite the principal's subtle warnings, she refused to back down. With her stubborn, competitive nature, she not only led Castle's cosmetics company to the top, but also scored an invite to the king's birthday. While other nobles wore traditional attire, looking solemn and dignified, she arrived in a flashy red sports car, wearing a vibrant red pantsuit. Facing the media's flashing cameras, she treated it like a Fashion Week runway, turning her head every 3 steps and striking a pose every 4. Thanks to some strategic PR from her team, she quickly became the center of attention. Her behavior, of course, angered the noble ladies at the party. Facing their mockery, a commoner, and an illegitimate child at that. That's right. Then her flaws are understandable. No honor or self-respect. So vulgar, with no class. Something like that. She responded like this. Cheers. No matter how bold and flashy she was, her seat was at the very back, in the farthest corner. She couldn't even see the young king's face. But being closest to the door, she had a clear view of the late Grand Prince Lian. Just like her, Grand Prince Lian wasn't in formal royal attire, but wore a hunting uniform instead. His sister-in-law, the Grand Royal Consort, was furious. She even confronted him right then and there. But their brief exchange revealed Grand Prince Lian's sharp wit. What is this outfit? This is the brocade His Majesty just gifted me. You don't like it? It looks good on you, but you must follow protocol. You can lecture me later. I must take my seat, so everyone else can be seated. But halfway through the party, Grand Prince Lian suddenly left, along with Prime Minister Min. Their conversation reveals the Grand Consort is pressuring him to marry. According to a royal decree, once he marries, he must leave the palace, effectively barring him from politics. Just then, Seong Hee-ju stepped out for some air, and that's when they had their first conversation. State your name. Forgive me, I seem to be lost. State your name, Seong Hee-ju. Your title. I'm not a court lady. Clearly neither of them is one to back down. But before they could say more, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. A secondary palace was on fire. But while everyone else was fighting the fire, the Grand Consort's first act upon arriving was to slap him. Are you trying to take another king's life? It turns out the Grand Consort's husband, the previous king, died in a fire, and she's always suspected the regent, Grand Prince Lian, was responsible. Fortunately, no one was harmed in this fire, but the birthday banquet ended abruptly. Seong Hee-ju's assistant is puzzled. Why isn't she her usual excited self? As someone who thrives on drama, Hee-ju would never miss a chance to be in the spotlight. Through a flashback, we learn this isn't their first encounter. Back in their school days, she snuck into the royal archery field to practice and was caught by the Grand Prince himself. Back then, his opening line was the same. State your name, Seong Hee-ju, class. Class 3, Vermilion Bird Hall. Back then, Hee-ju wasn't as polished as she is now. Learning he could use the archery field anytime, she'd complained about the unfairness of his privilege. Now, she doesn't even dare to refuse him, so she despises the person she's become. To make matters worse, her father gives her an ultimatum, marry within 1 month. So she takes her frustration out on her staff. Meanwhile, the Grand Consort is also pushing Lian to marry. But unlike before, after last night's incident, their conversation is much more direct. Your radiance overshadows the royal family. Indeed, this is the price of being too capable. The pressure on both of them to marry stems from the fact they're too brilliant, so brilliant they pose a threat to the king and the heir. That's why the late king named him Lian, meaning to peacefully protect the truth of the firstborn's right to the throne. And her father named her Hee-ju, meaning to aid her brother in inheriting the family company. But they each deal with the pressure differently. Grand Prince Lian retreats to his villa, holding himself up and refusing to handle any royal duties. Hee-ju, on the other hand, takes the offensive. Before her father can force a match, she decides to find a husband who will benefit her. But the candidates her assistant finds are lacking in business size, acumen, and frankly, in looks. When she lists her own criteria, Grand Prince Lian becomes the only option. I'm just looking for someone who matches my current status. He doesn't need to be too brilliant, just a match for my abilities, finances, and my looks. Is that too much to ask? I'm not asking to marry into the royal family. And so, for the first time, she sees the Grand Prince in a new light. But her assistant thinks she's completely lost her mind. Not only is the Grand Prince a national icon, but as the regent, he's the highest-ranking noble. Why would he ever notice a commoner like her? But Hee-ju doesn't see a gap at all. In fact, she's worried he'll never find anyone else as perfect as her. But her assistant points out another problem. To meet the Grand Prince, you need an appointment, a formal request for an audience. But no matter how many times she applies, she is always rejected. Hee-ju has to write the request herself. Judging by her expression, she's not exactly begging. Naturally, she's rejected again. But Heju is not one to give up on a goal. In the days that followed, she tried every reason imaginable. On her 15th attempt, she remembers they were once schoolmates, so she signs the request, "Your junior, Seong Heju." Annoyed by her constant pestering, the Grand Prince, upon hearing that name, finally agrees to see her. And so, she finally arrives at his villa. Looking at her outfit, you'd think she was meeting a business partner, not the man she wants to marry. The smile on her face isn't the shy smile of a maiden, but the triumphant grin of someone who got what she wanted. Sure enough, when she meets the Grand Prince, and he asks why she was so insistent on meeting him, she gets straight to the point, handing him an embroidered pouch. "I wish to propose. Let's get married." It's no surprise she was rejected. But the next day, this is her attitude. Even her assistant has no idea what she's up to. After all, Heju has been on top for so long, it's rare to find such an interesting challenge. Reversing traditional roles, her method of pursuit is basically stalking. First, she has his entire schedule investigated. Then, whether he's horseback riding in the countryside, dining in a private room, or even just driving or jogging, Heju manages to coincidentally appear. To make it worse, her opening line is always the same. "I've missed you so much, even if they just saw each other yesterday." And her expression grows bolder each time. But that alone isn't what gets her in trouble. The real issue was at the Outstanding Entrepreneur Awards. Initially, the Grand Prince didn't want to attend because he was sick, but the young king, who has a fear of crowds, personally called and asked him to come along. So once again, he appears right in front of her. This marks their second public appearance together. But unlike the other recipients, she not only asks the young king to crown her himself, but she also makes a point to sidle up to the Grand Prince and tease him. "I missed you so much. I have one more thing to ask of you, Grand Prince." Judging by the Grand Prince's expression, he looks like he just swallowed a fly, but he plays along for the photo op. But as soon as the young king leaves, his condition worsens. He's clearly running a high fever. Meanwhile, to avoid his sister-in-law, the Grand Consort, he doesn't return to his villa, but checks into a nearby hotel instead. At the same time, Heju, in a good mood and wanting to avoid her annoying step-siblings, also decides to check into a nearby hotel. As a result, she bumps into the Grand Prince's assistant. Luckily, with Heju there as a cover, a doctor's visit to the hotel won't look suspicious to the Grand Consort. But they underestimated her suspicious nature. So, just as Heju returns with sandwiches, hoping to get some info about the prince from his assistant, a guard outside suddenly reports that the Grand Consort is at the door. This means Heju can't just sneak away. The assistant shoves her into the prince's bedroom and tries his best to stall the Grand Consort, but it's as if the Grand Consort already knows something. She gives him no chance to stop her and heads straight for the bedroom, and this is the scene she walks in on. You see, the title Grand Royal Consort is equivalent to an Empress Dowager. It's the title given to the main queen after the king's death. So, it's understandable why she blushes for a moment. But the moment doesn't last long. When she spots a woman's handbag on the sofa, her eyes turn cold. Then, when she opens the bedroom door again, she sees Seong Heju for the first time. Looking at the Grand Consort's expression now, besides the satisfaction of catching him, there's a hint of jealousy towards Seong Heju. Yes, it's a look of pure jealous rage. But what she didn't expect was that, even after she leaked the story that very night, claiming Heju was Leanne's secret lover, the person at the center of it all, Seong Heju, had this reaction. Grand Prince Leanne's secret lover? Me? That's right. This is a huge help. What could be better than an ally like this? And because the doctor was also at the hotel, rumors even start to spread that she's pregnant. But unlike her frantic assistant, Seong Heju remains perfectly calm, pregnant before marriage. "Ma'am, you're scaring my baby." Finally, just as Heju had hoped, the Grand Prince not only summons her himself, but to protect her honor, he proposes marriage. Then you should prepare to become the Grand Prince's wife. But what Heju hasn't considered is, once she becomes the Grand Prince's wife, while she can use his power to take over the castle group, it also comes with the duties and dangers of her new title. In the Grand Prince's own words, "You will have to face an entire nation." And that's the end of episodes 1 and 2 of Perfect Crown.